Hello Group2, this is your second feedback on your portfolio. You've uploaded a zip file that contains a lot of files, and what I've done is I've separated them into two different groups. One group is a list of the documents or the portions of your portfolio that I will give you feedback on, and I created another folder called Other that includes a whole bunch of files that I will not be providing you with feedback on. Some of the items that you have listed here, such as the equipment cost, your product walkthrough, those are fine. I don't really need to go through them. You've got some items like the uniforms and the swatches. That is creative license, so you guys can include whatever you feel is appropriate in terms of uniform and swatches. And then you have some documents that I was not able to open, and they are primarily the layouts and the design files, like the front elevation, the kitchen. I am not able to open those for some reason, so if you guys can bring a copy on Sunday to show me what they look like, perhaps I can give you feedback during the setup. But as of yet, I have not been able to open these files. They've been saved in XPS file format, which I'm not able to access. So the files that I will be giving you feedback on, and I'm going to start with the top one over here, the beverage menu. Now, you have a beverage menu, and the very top thing that you have on your beverage menu are your sodas and your one coffee item. Number one, in a table d'hôte menu, when you have a fixed price for a 3-course meal, that usually includes a soda and one hot beverage. So both of these items that are listed here should be moved to the bottom of your table d'hôte menu. Okay? So these should not be separate, and they should not have a separate price. These should be a part of your regular menu, which means you'll have to move all of your wines to perhaps the center of the page. And it's fine. It's a bit boring in terms of the layout. I don't typically like to see the prices highlighted like that. And that's perhaps because it kind of pops up the menu. The focus on the menu should really be the title, and then the description should be another format and another font or size perhaps. So what I would do is perhaps I would reduce the size of the description a bit smaller, increase the size of the title. I would unbold the prices, and I would make them perhaps italicized, and reduce the size as well. We don't really need to highlight the prices. You could also leave a bit of a space like that, okay? Just to make it a little bit easier to read. Alright, so that's my feedback on your beverage menu. In terms of the description of the beverage menu, it looks fine. And you might want to increase the size of the header. Once you remove the soda and the cafe, you're going to have plenty of real estate on your menu. So don't be stingy. Go ahead and create those spaces that I talked about. Alright, I am going to close this document, and we are going to move to the feedback for the demographics. Number one, see the file has been mislabeled over here. It's demographics, not DOM graphics. Alright, let's start with the demographics now. You've done a better job of cleaning up the presentation of the data over here, so I like the way that you listed that over there. Except you need to write the word years here. But here is what the problem is with your menu. With your demographics. When I said include a copy of the map, I don't want you to take a screenshot of your entire web browser with all of your tabs and basically a map of all of Los Angeles. You need to include a map that is cropped and focused on the region that you're going to be operating on. So this is a bit of a narrower zoom, but what you need to do is you need to crop an area that basically includes the radius around your catchment area. So this needs to be zoomed in, and you need to get rid of most of the stuff over here. It really needs to be the block that your restaurant is located on. Now, in terms of your competition, it looks like you have a mid-upscale, more of an upscale really based on your price, but let's go with the mid-upscale Italian restaurant. And you've listed that the competition in your immediate area are all of these restaurants. You have a lot of restaurants over here, and what I would like for you to do is to go through this list and clean it up a little bit. Get rid of any type of restaurant that is not really within your class of service. So anything in this list over here that could be quick service, buffet style, fast food, just eliminate that because they're not really competing with the type of service that you're offering. For example, you've got here a restaurant that offers items that are $10 and more. Well, they're not competing against you. You guys are offering a menu that is $40 and above plus the cost of the wine, and it's going to be not quick service. So get rid of this, get rid of the lemonade place, get rid of anything really that has a listing of under $30, okay? Because they're not really competing with you, and you're not competing, for example, with the Baja Cantina. They're not people that you should be concerned about. Just limit the competition list to the few people that offer items that are between 25 maybe or $30 and above. When you get down to the classification, all of your portions are a bit too thin. They need to be a bit more substantial. So be a bit more descriptive and be sure of yourself. Don't say it seems to make guests feel a lot more welcome. If you know that your service is going to do that to your customers, then go ahead and say it makes our customers feel a lot more welcome and well taken care of. So go ahead and add some more content to the service style and also to the image and theme. And this is a section that unfortunately I think is very poorly done because you're talking about the theme and the image and you have not included a single picture over here. You need to include clips of pictures of every aspect of your restaurant in this section. So this would be the area that where you would be putting a copy or a screenshot of a restaurant dining room that closely resembles your dining room. And I'm not talking about the floor plan and layout. I am talking about actually going out to a restaurant that's similar to yours or finding a picture of a restaurant on the internet that resembles your concept or whatever you have in mind and including that in the section, and make sure that you label everything. Everything needs to be high resolution, has to be high quality, it needs to be tastefully displayed in this section. So this is an opportunity for you to really show what your theme and image looks like instead of just putting a small little paragraph over here, and I really don't really get a feel or a sense for what your restaurant looks like. Alright, let's go to the cost card. This is still a problem. Apparently you guys have a problem with doing math. And the problem that I found is that number one, you guys are using a cost card, which is a great tool to help you in breaking down your recipe, but unfortunately, you're doing your calculations still manually. If you're using an Excel sheet, you shouldn't be doing the calculations manually. You should be using a calculator and putting in a formula in the cells to calculate the numbers for you. For example, I've already calculated on these two columns the correct answers for the recipe cost and also for the extension. So instead of typing in, if you notice over here, what you guys did was you clicked on the cell and then you typed in the answer 0.62 cents. And the way that you got this was by taking your EP cost, dividing it by unit cost. So this is correct. But there's no reason for you to be typing it in manually. You should be using a formula to calculate all of those answers because that will ensure that you get a more accurate answer for all of this column and also when you get to this column over here. And the way that you want to do that is, and I'm going to do it over here, okay, is you type in equal, and this is how you program a cell. You tell this cell, I want you to be equal to, and then you're going to click on this cell that has the EP cost, and then you're going to say divide, so you'll put the slash, and then you're going to click on the unit and then enter. So once again, it's equal the cell that you want to start off as the numerator divided by the cell that contains the data for the denominator, and then click enter, and that automatically gives you 0.62. The cool thing about Excel is once you have the first cell done, you can automatically populate or program the other cells underneath it simply by going to the corner, to the right bottom corner of the cell until you get this thin plus sign. So right now you've got a fat plus sign, but if you take a cursor and go to the corner, it becomes a skinny black cell. And then what you want to do is hold your left button on the mouse and drag it all the way to the bottom, and it is going to basically populate all of these. So all of these cells now, if you look over here in the formula bar, you'll see that they all have formulas automatically populated because they copy the same format as the first cell. So go ahead and drag and drop. So once you do this, all of these answers should automatically be populated. Now, the good news is that you got all of these correct. The bad news is that your extensions were not calculated properly. To calculate the extension, you need to take the recipe cost and multiply it by the recipe amount. So your first one is off by about 30 cents. And then the second one is off by a few cents. So I'm not too picky if it's a few cents, but when you get to a item like this one right over here, what is this? Your lemons. You're off by almost $9. And that completely throws off your total cost proportion, okay? So what you want to do here is you also want to program the cell. So use formulas. Don't manually calculate in Excel when you have too many numbers. So click on equal, and then you want to select the recipe cost. I've already got mine here. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one, 0.62, multiplied by, and scroll over here and click on the total recipe amount. So you'll see that the formula actually shows up over here at the very top in the formula bar. And hit enter. So it automatically calculated the extension cost, and then I'm going to once again drag all the way to the bottom, and it's going to calculate all of my answers for me. The bottom cell is basically the total over here. So all I did was just added up all of these cells, and there's a formula for that too. There's an easy way of doing this. If you go to the top of Excel, there's a little sigma symbol. If you click on it, it will automatically highlight the boxes that are above that bottom cell, or you can manually go ahead and click on the cells that you want. I'm going to click and drag and select all of the extension costs. Click enter, and I will get the total. So this is one particular cost card that had a math problem that was one tiny mistake. However, as I go through the rest of them, I notice that you have other problems as well with several of the other cost cards, like this one over here. What is this? This is your Osobuco. This has several math problems, and it just completely throws off your total cost. Look at this. You calculate the total cost to be $152, but the correct cost is actually $75. So I hope you understand what the math problem is that you're encountering and how to correct it by using formulas as opposed to doing everything by hand. And hopefully that will help you correct your problem. I am not going to go through the rest of the Excel sheet. That is your job. I just show you how to get the problem fixed, and hopefully you guys can take it from there. All right, let's move on. Next, we're going to look at the TRA method. Now with the TRA method, I noticed that you guys have a TRA pricing list, which is an Excel sheet, and you have the document. I would like for you to take the Excel sheet or the table that you have here and go ahead and copy this and paste it into the Word document. There's no reason for you to have two separate files, and this doesn't have any kind of explanation, and the explanation is in the other one. So copy this and put it on your Word document. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and open the Word document, and we're going to look at your pricing strategy. Presentation, number one, the heading is fine. The rest of the presentation is terrible. All you have are a list of items, and you've got numbers. There's really no explanation, or there's no narrative. Don't ever begin a new section just by listing ingredients and putting percentages, because I am completely lost just looking at this. It's very difficult to read this. You need to make this understandable and easy for people to interpret. So what I'd like for you to do is, you already know what the format is for using a TRA method, and if you don't know what it is, here's what it should look like. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and this is what you should do. Indicate what the menu item is. You guys already did that, but go ahead and bold it and put the meal cost next to it, and then list the calculation in this format. Okay, label everything and don't leave any gaps when you're doing math problems, when you're displaying your calculations. Okay, this is not an essay portion of your paper. You don't need to put a box. I just put that to make it easier for you to kind of notice what I want you to do in terms of the layout. So look at this layout and compare it to your layout. Which is easier to read? A bunch of numbers and titles that don't really make any kind of incoherent sense, and the word divisor is nowhere to be found, or this layout. Got it? All right, let's move on. Now, it looks like you did put a narrative in your document, but you put it all the way at the very bottom. What I want you to do is take this description and the narrative, okay, and move it all the way to the top over here of your document. Always begin by explaining what the section is and what your methodology is before you go into the math. The other thing that I want you to do is go through the grammar. It seems that you're using very casual and improper grammar in this document. So for example, when you say we had to up the price, okay, this is not proper English, all right? You didn't up the price, you increased the price. When you're using dollars, for example, go ahead and use the dollar symbol as opposed to using the word. The other thing that I noticed about your explanation is it didn't really quite make a lot of sense. You're telling me that being that it is a tableau menu, we have set a price in which I took, who is I? There is no I in team. So you would say we, get rid of the I. So in which we took the highest priced with a D over here, items and added them together, divided by 2, which is $29.90. Okay, so I don't understand what the rationale is and why you did that, and it makes 0 sense to me. And just to humor you, I actually did this calculation. I went to your tableau menu, and I listed all of your items over here, and then I took the highest paid items in my menu, which are right over here, or I should say your menu. Let's go ahead and zoom in over here. There we go. And the total price for all of these items is $67.57. These are the highest items on the menu based on what I was able to determine. And these were the lowest items. So this is almost $70 and this is just about 20 bucks. Huge disparity between your lowest and the highest paid items. So just taking all of these and dividing them by 2, I'm not sure why you chose to do that. Another method that some people would perhaps look into doing would take the highest items, add them up to the lowest items, divide those by 2, and they come up with an average, and that would have given you $43.71, which is actually a lot closer to the total menu price that you came up with the tableau menu. But going from $29, which I don't know how you calculate that number, and then converting that to $40, just I really didn't see where that came from or what the explanation is. So that needs to be a lot clearer on your end. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the next document, and that is your menu. Menu looks a lot better than the first revision. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. Couple of things. I still feel that the headers can be improved a little bit, a bit larger. And it says over here, your choice of 1 appetizer, 1 entree, and 1 dessert. It's a bit long. I would probably say your choice of 1 item from each category. But if you're happy with this, then that's fine. When we're going through the titles over here, once again, I would like to see some sort of differentiation between the heading or the title of the menu item and also the description. They're almost the same size. I really want to see something that makes it pop. So perhaps you can bold this and make this a little bit darker. Yellowfin, if I'm not mistaken, there should be a space over here. I would probably decrease the size on the description a little bit, and do the same for the other items. But that's just me. I just like to see things differentiated a little bit as opposed to just seeing them completely blend together that way. Other than that, your menu seems to be okay. One thing that I would recommend, as I mentioned earlier on, is to include your soda and coffee at the very bottom of your menu. Let's go to your recipe. This is the last thing that we will discuss on this review. I love the pictures that you guys used. They look really nice. One thing that is missing, and I think it was probably also missing previously, is you don't have your portion, the yields for these recipes. So this recipe does not tell me how many portions are produced. You're just listing the ingredients, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to make portions for 2 people or 10 people. Make sure your spelling over here is also corrected, and go ahead and bold the headings for ingredients and also for directions. The other thing that you also need to do is make sure that you don't have recipes that appear chopped between 2 pages. So make sure that the recipes all appear on separate pages if possible. If you can put 2 recipes completely on 1 page, great, that's fine. Just do not separate them, okay? So don't separate them this way. This should come up, should appear on the next page. All right, so that is my feedback for your recipes. Go through the rest of it and clean it up, and make sure that your formatting is consistent, because I see a bit of inconsistency right here. So this looks like it's a specific dimension and size, and when I come down here, for some reason it looks like it's justified or aligned a little bit further to the right. So make sure that it's correct and correctly aligned. You've got a gromolata over here. I would like to see a picture of that. This font looks like it's different from the other font in your paper, and there's no picture. So once again, make sure you've got consistency throughout your document in terms of size, font, and also the layout. Missing some more pictures over here. And you've got some text that kind of starts over here and ends on the other end of the page and actually bleeds off of the page. You don't want to do that. Go ahead and clean this up. This is your second draft. It should be nearly perfect at this point. Okay? And another picture. I'm looking for a picture for the gromolata. I think you get the idea here. Well, I will see you on Sunday morning, and at that point, if you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully you guys would have cleaned up all of this stuff and brought a much better draft for me to look at on Sunday.